Guys, welcome back to the Bikini Edit podcast. It has been a hot minute and I thought what better way to kick these back with one of my previous guests, Taylor Belshaw. Welcome again, my love.
Hello.
I am so excited to have Taylor on. We were chatting and Taylor had recently just gone through her off season after her incredible first ever season. And I was like, dude, we need to talk about off season. We need to give the people what they need to hear because there are so many people that go into it and they go, oh, I'm not even satisfied with the amount of muscle I have. But that's because just like prepping for a show, there is a right way and there is a wrong way to do it. So we are going to break this into 2-part episodes, and this one, we're going to really tailor it around why your growth phase actually isn't working. But before we deep dive into that, Tay, obviously last time I had you on, we were literally talking about you going into your first ever pro. Yeah, you were going to Italy. How did you find Italy and also coming out of your first season? Like, give us a bit of insight how that went.
Yeah, so for anyone who listened to the last podcast, obviously in my first show with FMG in Gold Coast earlier in the year last year in April, I was fortunate enough to win my pro card in my first ever show, which was really exciting. And the plan was to always go to Italy. Now, obviously, I didn't think about the fact that I would be going into a pro show in my first season. So it was very full on. So yeah, going into a pro show in my first season, obviously new levels, new devils. I was definitely feeling all the feels going into Italy. And look, I mean, you always question yourself a little bit. Like there's always that self-doubt in a prep or in general when you are someone who is a high achiever, high performer, you're always nitpicking, you know, the small details. So going into a pro show, obviously I was stacking up against people who were veterans of the sport and had done, you know, 15, 16 shows. So I was fucking shitting myself to say the least, but I just stayed really focused on what I could bring because at the end of the day, it doesn't matter what everyone else looks like. It matters what you bring and you can only bring your best. So going into Italy, I placed second in my pro show, which I was super happy with. Obviously, the competitive side of me was like, cool, I was the first loser. But, you know, I think we had 6 or 7 girls in the lineup for a pro show, which was insane.
Especially in Italy. Yeah.
Yeah, being the first show in Italy as well, it was a lot smaller. But as you know, the athletic lineup at the moment is humongous.
We were literally just talking on the way here how hectic it is that the girls that are winning athletic nows and the amateurs, it is nothing compared to the girls that were winning the first ever time it came about. It has just grown.
It's evolved so much.
Yeah, which I love.
Yeah.
We love that. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's solidified now, the category. I think people are a lot clearer on what the criteria is, which is amazing.
Especially after Worlds with Paris winning, it's like, okay, this is the standard.
Feathered quads, let's go.
You're like, and just doing more volume of quads.
So, yeah, I think as well, coming out of that experience was really, really good for me because I think nothing lights a fire under your ass more than coming second. So yeah, obviously coming out of a win into a experience of coming second for me was massive. And I think it was just what I needed, honestly, going into the off season that we're going to talk about.
Yeah. And like coming into this off season for you, obviously you guys would have seen, okay, we know what improvements we need to make. This is the judges' feedback. For you coming into your first off season, what was the strategy around it? And did you guys kind of were able to look at, okay, this is what we need to work on? Were you able to kind of figure out what the timeline was going to be? How did you and Tom go about structuring that off season, what you knew you had to do in that time?
Yeah, so I think it's different for obviously every athlete, being we all get different feedback. For me personally, I like to say I was very blessed with my feedback, but I also like to think that I worked really hard to receive that feedback. Obviously, prior to my Gold Coast show, for people who don't know, I spent 4 years dedicating specifically to bodybuilding training and trained since I was 16.
Guys, she had a fight with Tom. He said no, she wanted to go. He was like, no, and it paid off.
Yes, we had a fight about I wanted to get on stage earlier and Tom was like, you're not getting up there until you are pro-worthy. So you know, as an amateur hearing that, you definitely, it's delayed gratification. And, you know, I can look back and say I'm really glad that I did that. In the moment, obviously, I was getting itchy feet. I was like, why can't I go, you know, throwing tantrums, being a brat. But I learned a lot through that time. And when we got my feedback, I was really, really happy because it wasn't actually to grow too much. So I think it's probably the best feedback you can receive. And I won't go into details with feedback because I think
it's for you.
It's important to keep that. For me personally, I think it's, you know, something that you should keep close and use to your advantage. So for me though, to give a general consensus, it was to grow just a little bit in the glute area and to come in a little bit fuller. Every other muscle group I was told was pretty much where it needed to be. So for me and Tom, when we planned this out, it was like, ideally, we don't really need that much time. We need to change how we come in on show day. So for me specifically, it was more of a protocol, I guess you would say, that we want to change on how I'm coming in for show, more than it was grow a heap more tissue. But obviously being me, I was like, well, we may as well just blow the fuck up everywhere because why not? As long as we keep that balance and that symmetry. And look, I think that's another thing that people get misled about in athletic especially is like, it's amazing if you have big glutes, and we could all have bigger glutes. Maybe not you.
Maybe not me. I'm not allowed to more glute volume.
But, you know, it's a balance in athletics. So you do need to bring symmetry, and you need to have quads and you need to have shoulders, and it's important to make sure that when you're training, especially when you're going into a pro lineup, you really are focusing on those weaknesses, because you don't really just want your strengths getting stronger. So for me, quads definitely were my strength, and you know, they were more of a maintenance through this period. And bringing up my glutes was a massive part of my off season.
Yeah. And how long did this off season go for, purely dedicated to growing? How long was this one?
So it will have been a year in a few weeks, which is really scary since I won my pro card in April, which
went
is
so quick.
Fucking nuts. But so a year, and obviously I'm still growing now, coming into shows. I haven't announced yet when I'm doing, but I guess everyone can guess it's not the start of the year. So yeah, it will have been 18 months when I step back on stage roughly. So that's a little hint to when I'm doing, I guess. But yeah, a year of dedicated growing. But the thing I think gets confused with people is like, you spend 6 months of that in recovery. So you know, I will be honest and say I really struggled post-comp because I did a back-to-back show and had to hold condition for so long.
Feel that.
And I think people don't talk about those first 3 to 6 months, like, you're not really growing. Like, to be honest, you know, you're recovering, you're healing.
Trying to get your period back.
Getting your body back to normal.
Actually being able to like perform and even get back to the numbers you
100%.
weren't hitting.
And letting go of, I guess, that version of you as well can be really difficult. As
seeing yourself that shredded every day. It's hectic.
And I think I dealt with a lot of inflammation post-comp as well. Look, I nailed all my protocols in terms of, you know, training, cardio, food as much as I could, but I just think your body needs to do what it needs to do, and you just have to give it time. So I think if you're taking time after show and the goal is to grow, you need minimum a year a lot of the time. So
yeah, and I think that comes down to as well. So obviously Tay and myself, Tay is a pro in FMG. I am also a pro in NBA, and I was the same as Tay. I didn't take a big massive off season this time round, and purely because I think we are very fortunate to have had top placings. Now, the thing with top placings is you get feedback. There's things you need to work on. And a lot of the time, especially with some athletes, getting away with a 12-month off season like us to bring those improvements is achievable. But if you are an amateur and you didn't even place top 10, you've more than likely got a lot of work to do. There's a lot of growth there. So a 12-month growth off season is maybe not going to be feasible for what you need to bring.
But I think as well, like, I just want to jump in. The mentality around these growth seasons, it's like you need to approach it in the same urgency as you would a prep. And people lose that focus. And it's like when we look at a year and you break that up into phases, a year is fuck all time. And I always say to people, like, after Italy, I was freaking out because I was like, I only have this much time. I've only got this long. And people are like, you've got so much time. What are you worried about? And I'm like, that's the issue with a lot of athletes is they think they have a lot of time. You should be looking at it like, I've only got this long left of my growth phase.
I love that. I've seen you post about that. And it's a really powerful mindset because everyone's always fixated on this is how long I've got to get shredded, but why can't you bring the same mentality into your growth phase? And I would say this is probably literally on the hot topic of what this podcast is about. This is probably one of the biggest mistakes that people make with their growth seasons. People are getting too complacent. And this is why you probably see it with clients as well, or even just people that you know in the realm of this sport. They are coming out of their off season with little changes or potentially not satisfied, and it may be because you didn't actually bring the same level of urgency throughout this phase. When we look at how people may not be bringing the urgency across their build from their training and nutrition, where do you think are areas people might be slacking that would reflect they're not bringing the urgency?
I think there's a lot of people that want to be a pro, but not a lot of people willing to do what it takes to be a pro. Yeah. And I think, you know, that does sound really cliche and really cringy sometimes, but I think, you know, there's a few things as well when I look at opinions and when coaches are giving advice on, say, a growth phase and prep and all of that. And it's like, don't also tell your athletes that, you know, they should just be happy competing. They should just see where they place. Like, you should be envisioning yourself as a pro. You should be acting like a pro before you become it.
You need to be pro. And I always say that. It's a mindset.
Yeah. So it's like if you aspire to become a pro in your federation, then look at what the pros do and do what they do. And like, it's one of my favorite sayings. It's like, you want what I have, then do what I do.
Yep.
And if you're not willing to do it, then likely you aren't going to get there.
I would say it's almost a cop-out for some people to take that approach. Or just like, I think that's a cop-out that I'm not willing to work of what it would be required. It's an easy escape to reflect that you didn't give it your hardest shot.
Yeah. And I think something that a lot of people, and a self-sabotage that comes up for a lot of people is, you know, oh, but I've got it harder, and, you know, I work these like 15-hour days and all of these things, right? And it's like someone has it harder than you and is doing more than you. So think about that and really think like we all have our shit. Like if you can't nail the foundations, then don't expect a top placing. Like those foundational things are the most important. Like they shouldn't even be. What would you say
are those foundational things?
Well, it's like if you can't nail your training and be consistent year round with your training, even when you fucking hate it. Don't expect to be a pro. If you can't nail your nutrition without needing a fucking round of applause for hitting your macros, like they are the foundations. Like it's like telling someone to drink their water. Are you fucking serious? You want to be a pro and you aren't drinking 3 to 4 liters of water.
You're not hitting 8K steps a day. Like,
and you can't fit that into your day, then that's a problem.
That's like, a standard.
Yeah. And I think coming from like even, you know, an amateur to a pro, it was like, I was already doing those things. And
and that's why you turned pro though.
Yeah.
Right?
And I think as well, there are definitely amateur athletes that are pro worthy that are doing all those things. So I'm not saying that it's like, okay, do these things and it's going to happen, but
act like a pro.
Yeah.
Every amateur has the opportunity to act like a pro.
100%.
And I think it comes down to one, having the right guidance, like having a coach that won't let you slack off, like actually having a coach that won't excuse your poor adherence to go, oh, it's okay, you're a first timer. I'm sorry, but like even with all, I want to hold my clients to a standard, and that's why my clients come to me. My clients don't come to me expecting me to cheerlead. That's not what I promote myself on social media, and neither do you. And that's one thing I love about you and align with you so much is you have a coach to be your strategist. You are coming to them because you're going into unknown territory that they should know how to get you there.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. And it's also, I think as well, as humans, we see those uncomfortable conversations as conflict a lot of the time. Something for me as a coach with my clients, it's like, no, it's not okay that you're not doing your steps. No, it's not okay that you're not doing this because you told me this is important to you and now you're not doing it. Like my job is to hold you accountable to what you say is important. My job is not to protect you and your ego.
They can do that themselves. They can go on their own and do that. They don't need you. Do you know what I mean? If that's what you want out of a coach, you don't actually need a coach.
100%. And it's like just being held accountable is such it's a hard thing for coaches to execute. A lot of people, a lot of coaches saying they'll do it and then just letting their clients slack. And it's like, hold them to the standard that they tell you is what they want, So if you want to be a pro, then those foundational things, you can't suck off. It has to be there,
100%. And I think it comes down to as well, like when we're talking about, these foundations, right, of ensuring that you are getting the most out of your phase and not going, well, shit, I don't even feel like I grew that much. Like when we're looking at growing, it goes beyond just hitting your training nutrition, but also making sure that you're being productive with recovery, right?
Yeah.
You can't just continuously keep training but not feel appropriately, not get enough sleep each night, be able to go, well, I'm in the off season now, I can go out and drink every weekend and stay out late.
Yeah.
That is not going to be productive for your growth. And it's probably one of the biggest things I did in my early years when I was like 18 and I was in that party scene, and why I probably got sloppy in my first growth phase. And I even called myself out about it on a reel, because girls will say, I had to look like this to look like this, and they look like a fucking whale and they're sloppy. No, you did not need to look like that to get stage ready, because the thing is, one, when we go through growth phases, you shouldn't be need to put on a kilo a week. Absolutely fucking not. If that's what's happening and you're like, yeah, I'm gaining weight, the rate of that gain is what matters.
Yeah. And it's the same in reverse. I think scale weight is such a funny one that people fixate on when we're coming into show and things like that. It's like, it's a look.
It's a look.
No judge is looking at you thinking, oh, I bet she's 50 kilos on stage. They're looking at you.
Or when people say, I need to get to this weight. And it's like, how do you know? How do you know that your hem tie is going to be in that weight? Like, you don't know, especially if you're a first timer, you don't know. I think it's important to have a gauge, because that helps you map out the timeline essentially, but you're never going to truly know. And 100%. Even with my most recent prep, we thought we're probably looking about 58. We've gotten a 58 and we go, there's a bit more to go just there. We're just not quite there yet.
Yeah.
And a good coach will not tell you to get to a number. And girls have come to me with preps like, yeah, we're pushing to this weight. I'm like, that's not, I don't care about your in-body scan. I don't give a fuck what you, and I had someone in my NGL asking, what body fat percentage should I need to get to, or where should I be sitting? I'm like, I don't fucking know. I don't even do scans myself.
Yeah.
Like, no judge is going, yep, she's hit 10% body fat. Like, it's just not going to happen.
I think as well, like, I didn't even weigh myself in peak week. Like, it's just so irrelevant. So
it really is.
In a growth phase, it's very much similar in the fact that you shouldn't be just expecting the scale to go up all the time, but also the people, I think the issue is not that, it's people trying to stay lean in their off season as well. It's like, respect the fact that you will need to put on body fat, respect the fact that everyone's body fat percentage to perform at their best is different.
Yes.
So when we look at, how much weight should you gain in an off season, I hate that question, because it's like, there's coaches out there preaching you should stay only 10% above stage weight. Well, I put on 15 kilos in my off season and I didn't find it any harder. So
everyone has a natural settling point as well. Everyone has a different natural settling point. And this is a genetic thing as well. And this is why you'll see some girls can naturally build still good physiques and being a little bit leaner and closer to their stage weight, because naturally their girls actually find it hard to put on weight.
Yeah.
And then, for me, like, and other girls I know, in order for me actually to get my period back and my hormones back regulated and no longer thinking about my next meal, I have to get up, pushing probably 7-8 kilos above my stage weight just to fucking feel regulated again.
Yeah.
And I know for a lot of girls that is also the same. I have one client, she's like got up 5 kilos stage weight. She was like eating 2,800 calories and she was fucking no food noise whatsoever. Like, but because she even naturally, she didn't even have to dig for a prep. Her body was just a fucking burning machine.
Yeah.
And I think
it's just, everyone's so different, and it's understanding that you need as much food as you can handle without getting excessive body fat that makes you perform like shit, feel like shit about yourself, because then that's not going to be productive. And put you in a position that makes prep harder. But you do need to get a little bit uncomfortable in the fact that, you're going to put on some body fat. With muscle comes body fat. And I think as you get more competitive and further down your journey, obviously the more muscle tissue you have, the less body fat, I guess, kind of shows through, right? Because
you look more well
You've
kept.
got that density.
Yeah.
It's like, and I think a lot of girls focus on these pro athletes, and it's like, yes,
I don't know. I look at that in my off season.
They've done 10 seasons. Like, you need to spend years to get to that point. So it's looking at where you're at, and it's not to say you won't get there, but it's like, it's going to require more time and more work. And a lot of the time people don't want to accept that the answer is time.
And one thing I'll always say on that as well, your first growth phase is not going to be your favorite look because there's a reason you're doing a growth phase and a decent one because you're under muscled, right? It is not going to be your favorite look. Like you're going to, of course, have a higher body fat percentage, but you would know this as well. Each time you do a growth phase, you start looking better and better each growth phase because you have more muscle each time you go into one. And alongside that, you probably have greater athlete maturity as well. You actually know how to show up better. My most recent growth phase was definitely one of my best well kept, where I was getting regular sleep each night. I drank a lot less. I would go to events, but I would, still choose my steak and my veg because I actually generally enjoyed it. It made my digestion good. I started to have values on these other things, right?
Yeah.
So I think definitely being strategic and knowing what is the value and what are you wanting to get out of this growth phase. Are you an athlete? Are you just a lifestyle? If you're listening to this, you're probably an athlete because it is the bikini edit. But
it's also like the precision that people put into their prep. If you just applied that to your off season,
more food, less movement,
you would be so surprised like how fast you can accelerate your growth. Because I said to a client the other day, people get on the defense when you ask them like, okay, well, are you doing this, this, and this? Are you doing everything, blah, blah, blah? And she replied and she said, I'm doing everything and I'm so frustrated because I'm just doing everything. And the first questions that I started asking were, okay, so, the specifics, right? Like, so how much water are you drinking? Oh, no. You're either drinking, you know how much water you're drinking, or you don't. I'm doing everything. There's no in between. Yeah. And then it led on to, okay, so how much protein are you hitting? If you can't answer those simple questions, you're not doing everything and no one's doing everything. Not even I'm doing everything. Yeah. There is always an extra % you can find.
I love that.
And it's like, find what that is for you. Maybe it's sleeping better. Maybe you are nailing absolutely almost everything.
Maybe you're doing too much.
But there's also like always something that you can work on at any level. So it's like you have to be in that mindset of what can I do better? Not, oh, I'm doing everything and I'm in that victim mentality of like nothing's happening for me. Like you have to work for it. And I think bodybuilding is one of the only things in life left where we don't have instant gratification. And there's a lot of people who just can't tolerate that.
Yep.
And when you look at how do you speed up the process, which is the shortcut everyone looks for, and it's like you can't.
And that's what I love about bodybuilding is because you cannot buy the physique. You cannot just you buy a Louis Vuitton bag. Wow, that's such a nice bag. That's such a nice car. Bodybuilding, the physique is earned and it is earned through hard work, character building. And that's why it is so admirable when we see these physiques, because we know that the standard for people to get these physiques, they're doing the unthinkable. And do you know what? It's not even the unthinkable. It's not even impossible. It's the person that can withstand doing the same boring shit day in, day out, repetitively, because people will get to a point they go, nothing's working. No, you're just not doing it long enough. These people you look more time, years. We're talking years. We're not talking weeks or months. We're talking fucking years. And like Tay did, she didn't step on stage till 4 years before getting on that fucking stage. And like that's the reason why she turned pro. But if we were also looking at factors why someone might be like, yeah, I'm in a growth phase, but they're probably maybe not actually growing, or maybe they're worried that they're not growing. Would you say there's any sort of red flags in a growth phase as to why someone might not be growing?
Might not be growing. Yep. Training intensity is a big one.
Yep.
A lot of people slacking off in their training just because it's hard, just because, as you said, it gets boring. And to be honest, like the expectation, and maybe that's a social media thing, but it's like you're not always going to be in love with the process. And one of the things I absolutely hate seeing, and it's such a cliche, is like you've got to love the process. Well, I can tell you for free, I fucking hate the process sometimes. I don't love training legs. It fucking hurts. It's painful. I hate showing up 3 times a week to do legs a lot of the time. It's exhausting. It kills me and it challenges me. I love what it brings me, but I don't necessarily always love the process. I think people get too attached to having to enjoy everything in life and having to be like, I need to enjoy training and do all these fun workouts. It's like, I've done the same program for like over a year. Like it doesn't need to change. Like you just need to do it. And as you said, you need more time.
Embrace the mundaneness of it.
Yeah, it's like do the basics, do them on repeat, and just watch the growth happen. And it's always when you look back and you go, oh, look how much progress I've made, you know, and reflecting is so important and looking at that. Like obviously you're going to have some red flags. If you're not growing, look at your training intensity. If you're not growing, like, are you eating enough? You know,
yeah. Are you tracking your food? Are you just thinking, yeah, I'm eating heaps? Because you'd be surprised people say, yeah, I'm bulking, but they're not tracking what they're eating. And I'm like, how do you know that you're getting enough of what your body needs?
And people eating, you know, they're going for their off-plan meals and thinking, oh, but I eat off-plan and I do this, like it would all add up.
Just, I get a lot of guys. So guys like, yo, like they'll say to Paul, I eat so much. And you're like, yeah, you're eating KFC and then like.
And they're still eating like under their calorie amount needed to grow. Like it's insane. It's, I hate to be sexist. It's always
and the males that don't want to track, they want the easiest way.
I'm thinking, I eat more carbs than you know, like it's a lot. What you need to grow is probably going to be a lot more than what you're comfortable with in terms of food. So if you don't have a coach, that's probably also a red flag. I probably wouldn't do a growth phase on my own. And when
especially first time.
When I see athletes, you know, leaving their coaches post-show and I just think, you know, the most important phase of your journey is the growth phase that builds the physique that you're going to present on stage.
Which is what we'll dive into part 2, so stay tuned for that.
Yeah, if you don't have someone leading the ship, you're going to make emotional decisions. You're going to make decisions based on how you feel, and how you feel is not a fact. You need someone in the driver's seat telling you to push through when you feel like shit. And that accountability, I believe every athlete needs, regardless of the level they're at. Because as we know, going into a prep, you lose brain cells and you lose the ability to see yourself for where you're truly at. And I think the same happens in a growth phase. It's like you can't see the muscle right now, really. Like it's covered, it's hiding. Yeah. So, you know, you need to trust the process. And if you don't have someone there holding you accountable, you know, you see these people and they're like, I'm going to do a quick mini cut.
It's been like 12 weeks in a build, darling. You're fun.
Or when I see people go, just did a 12-week build. And I'm like, what did you build in 12 weeks? Because please, like, you know, enlighten me.
You're lucky to gain a kilo in a year, man.
Yeah. Enlighten me how you grew in 12 weeks. Like, yes, you may have grown a little bit, but like you're just getting started, you know. It takes so much more time than people think. So the red flags for me would be just like not knowing their protocols. If you think you're nailing everything, like really assess that.
Yeah. And I would say it's the biggest thing. And if you're unsure if you're growing, but you're not actually tracking anything, are you progressing in your lifts? Are you taking progress photos? Are you tracking your food? If you're not doing these variables, that's where you need to start before you can even determine if you are growing, because you're not going to know and you're simply going into the unknown. 100%.
If it isn't measured, it isn't managed.
Absolutely. If you're going to do bodybuilding, all the data matters, and that's how we essentially know what changes we need to make.
I put up a post the other day. It's a little bit of a meme post, and I was like, it was like taking the piss out of like when people say, I've tried everything, and it's like, yeah, except tracking because you think it's restrictive.
Yep.
It's like, you need to just do the basics. Like,
if you think tracking is restrictive, don't get into bodybuilding, by the way. It's not going to be your best friend. Guys, I hope you all were able to take away and have a greater understanding as to why, if you're doing a growth phase, why it might not be working, and potentially what things you're potentially missing into be order to make your growth phase work. Make sure to jump in on our next episode where we'll be diving into how to actually build your physique, which is going to be a really great segment leading on to this. Taylor, thank you for joining.
No worries. Bye, guys.